Hello and welcome to the Race to a Trillion video series. In this video, we're on book 5, and we're going to cover again the four companies that became worth $1 trillion first: Apple, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. We call them the four horsemen in this book, and as a reference to the four horsemen of the apocalypse, but they've been everything. Uh, they've been the reverse. They're the anti four horsemen of the apocalypse because they have brought um, unimaginable good things to uh, people. I mean, the digital transformation has been unbelievable and it's just getting started. And certainly they're not death, war, famine, and death, which are the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Yeah, Hades. I didn't know about this, but that's apparently what the Four Horsemen is all about. And, it's a good book assignment to read up on in the future. So let's go through some of these, and it gives the history about when these companies first started and their ascension to the top. So Apple was started in 1976. In 84, Apple launched the Macintosh. In the 90s with Steve Jobs. Um, that's when they came out with the iPod, which was such a hit. And it's so interesting to think that the iPod, which was essentially a MP3 holder, really kind of shaped the focus for the iPhone. And it was such an interesting half step that kind of revolutionized our world in that we had CD players and tape players, and then suddenly MP3s held digital music in a very small device. And then from that small device evolved the iPhone. And so it was a really kind of an amazing kind of step, and it is really what drove Apple to be so successful. And then, of course, there's the iPad and the additional products that kind of launched through the iPhone. And so it's just an interesting path, an interesting journey. And Steve Jobs was such a huge player in envisioning those products and making sure that they were premium and then had the incredible sales that they did. But I do remember, the how popular the iPod was. And as a testament to Apple to bring out the iPhone, which more or less made the iPod obsolete, they still did it anyway and made the greatest mobile phone of all time and probably uh, the greatest personal computing device of all time, the iPhone. And so that their reign is far from over. And so we'll see how that goes. But it's an amazing singular product, and I think a book could be written on just the advent of the iPhone, and it's in our integration with it today. So I think the company that's probably really the most interesting out of these four horsemen is Microsoft, in that they literally changed the world, changed the U.S. economy, and just created a GDP that was just unheard of. And the personal computer was essentially more or less just invented and made possible by Bill Gates. And so in 1970, it's interesting that had such similar origin years: 1976, 1975 for Microsoft, and then its co-founder Paul Allen. And there is a great documentary available regarding these two and how they started off, and Bill Gates driving his Porsche and getting speeding tickets, and being an obsessed coder. It's just a great and wonderful story to see somebody like Bill Gates become um, such a great leader. And, as I mentioned earlier, just the founding father of the tech billionaire and richest man in the world. It's just, he shaped the modern the modern era of richest men, and it's just it could not go to a better person, a person that's worthy of being the richest man. And so, going back into the history and lore of Microsoft, IBM was the leading computer company, and Microsoft DOS pretty much changed it. And in that documentary that I mentioned, uh, Bill Gates was not just writing code for, I believe this is right, he was not just writing code for himself and Microsoft, he also wrote code for IBM. And so it was just an amazing time that somebody essentially that was extremely proficient at writing code dominated the, the market and the landscape and pretty much changed everything for everyone. And, because it's code and we don't see it, it's in the back of the computer. It's not thought of the same way. But I mean, had he been Leonardo da Vinci, he would have uh, these monumental paintings or these workbooks that are just unparalleled and change the world. And it's through simply staying at a computer and typing in the right functions for that amount of time. It's really, really, really remarkable what he did and how he achieved what he did achieve. And of course, Apple and Microsoft's back and forth really drove those two companies. And so it's just an amazing thing to think about. Google, which was kind of more recent, it was founded in 1998 by Larry Page and Sergey Brin, was founded around an algorithm. Again, it's something that we don't see. It's kind of in the back of the software or the program. And it changed everything. As I mentioned earlier in the video series, is that people often forget that the internet was very difficult to manage and find things and be productive with, and Google changed all that, and that was because of their page rank algorithm. And there's a lot of great lore and history about this as well, and that the Larry Page and Sergey Brin almost sold the algorithm, and then I think maybe possibly to Netscape or some company, just looking to have the quick payoff, but then decided not to and opened Google, thankfully, and then just changed everything. And then I think what's really not said enough about Google is just their expansion into other things. And YouTube is where these videos will be posted. And it's just, I think there's a lot of, I think that Google could be worth far more than it is, or Alphabet could be worth far more than it is just by unlocking some of that capabilities in tech and just having it in separate companies. And that would be purely just because of valuations and how the world values individual components. But again, it's interesting that Alphabet chooses not to do that. I mean, uh, it's just such a position of so much bravado and like dominance that okay, yeah, we have these companies like YouTube under our umbrella, and they would probably be worth 10 or 20 times more by themselves, but we're not incentivized to do that because we're doing so well, and it's just amazing. And then of course Amazon, um, it started out as an online bookstore, and again, just like the other three horsemen, it's a lot of great stories and lore. I think one of the pictures that constantly is shown is the banner in the kind of very non-fancy office, in Jeff Bezos' desk, and that was Amazon. That was the entire company is that desk with that banner and that person sitting behind that computer and figuring out a book internet company. And I remember the first time using Amazon and thinking like, well, this is this connotated with the rainforest or? And it was just a great name, and I think to see it become so dominant and so powerful, it's just really amazing. And I think one thing that people um, kind of forget is that the Kindle, when the Kindle came out, it really took Amazon to a different level. They touched into consumer electronics, but at the same time, it was kind of, I think, maybe kind of enlightening to Amazon that look how much we can do and how quickly we can expand into these other markets using our same core principles. And then I think the other thing that is not talked about enough is just logistics. There's an amazing comedian that it talks about just how fast Amazon is. And just to have an entire country with 2-day delivery service was not even I mean, it wasn't even a concept. It was like a goal that no one even thought was possible suddenly became possible, and then not only became possible, became the norm. I do remember being very young, and the going shipping rate was 6 to 8 weeks. So anything mail ordered would get to you in the next season, right? And it's this to think that now you literally can have almost anything, if not the next day, within 2 days. Almost anything you want in 2 days. Any kind of a consumer, any kind of grocery, anything, and all from one website. It's just, again, it's a goal that we didn't know that we could achieve, and then it became the norm. And so it's just unbelievable testament to Amazon and that company. All right, that wraps it up for book 5. We're going to move on to book 6 next. Thank you so much for listening.